Okay, I will put myself on mute.
Thank you, Qasim and everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Rabbi Sharli Sadri, wa Sirli Amri, wa Ahlul Uqdatam min Lisani yafqahu qawli. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. All right, thank you. So we're going to start with a new word today. It's called the fourth word. And this is based on our journey that if you've been following us through the series that we're doing from the first word where we studied in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, which is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we spent quite some time on studying and understanding that part, which showed that there is a Godhead in everything, in terms of everything that we are experiencing in this universe points to its source of existence. So that is what that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim showing that everything is coming from the mercy and compassion of the one who gives everything existence. And throughout, then afterwards, we did study in terms of the second. It started building up, I would say, gradually. And then those who believe in the unseen, or, in Arabic, it is called al-ghaib, basically whatever you are experiencing, all the qualities that you see are not belonging to the thing, but they are coming from the source of existence, not of the nature of this universe. So we saw that the qualities that we enjoy, we experience, such as joy, happiness, the satisfaction that we get, the taste that we get from eating foods, and the, our feelings that we go through, all those are given from the source that must be absolute. So that was what the understanding of believing in the unseen was. And in the third one, we kind of went over, now that you understand, hey, everything is coming from a source that is giving them existence, your own being, including your physical body and your side of the human side, your feelings, your senses, your tools that you use on a daily basis, everything that we are doing here, all that is coming from the one who gives the existence to the whole universe. So now we have to do, like, as the author was saying, that if you realize all this, that is what is, worship part is basically that realization, that you understand, you're making sure that you grasp that, hey, I'm not here just by myself, but there is an owner that is, treating me, that is just taking care of me. So there is this understanding that the human being develops, that this universe is coming into existence from with somebody who actually willed it purposefully. It's not just random or haphazard that we are given existence here, but we are deliberately placed here in this universe. And for what purpose are we placed here in this universe? So that is where, like, now that the author is moving along into the, his, building of, the purpose of the human existence and his journey. Basically, we are all here doing a journey here in this life. We understand that this place is not our permanent residence. And this is based on our observation. We look at things and we see that all these things, they are coming and going. There's constant change that is happening. And there is this aspect of transience, that yesterday is gone, today is going as well. So there is that aspect. So what is a human being to do in their journey? So the part of worship was actually to realize, who that source is that is responsible for all this change, and to connect with that source and respond to this source. And now here in this fourth word, which we will start working, it says, Bismillah Rahman, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. The prescribed prayers are the pillar of religion. So now it seems that, now there is that aspect. We're just coming from the realizing what worship was, so, oh, human being, worship. And here it is giving like an aspect of that worship, like, oh, one way that worship would be. That is the prescribed prayers, and how important they are in our human journey, in our day-to-day living. So maybe I will just start here and and see what this means. The prescribed prayers are the pillar of religion. So I'll just try to briefly maybe share my thoughts on what pillar means and what religion also means. And of course, at any point, if any of you would like to share your thoughts, you are free to raise your hands, or you can always put something on the chat box. But so let's start maybe with religion. It's a very common word, and many people have different ways of understanding religion. But in a simple way, we can say that religion is based on, how you perceive the world, what your worldview is in terms of when you are interacting and living in this world. How do you see that there is an owner to this? And your conclusions and your thoughts and your actions based on that understanding is what would constitute religion. So, and the word pillar of religion, it's very, at least in the conventional Islamic thought and teachings, it's they focus a lot on the the 5 pillars of religion. But now every time I think of what the pillar comes to, 5 pillars of religion, but really, what does that mean to be a pillar of religion? And I do see a comment, so let me just read that. Prayers equals realization and acknowledgement. Thank you. And the pillars equals reasoning. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Pillars equals reasoning, and religion equals worldview. Thank you for these words and comments. And anybody, if you would like to share or express your thoughts, you are welcome to raise your hands. And the host and the co-host, if they cannot raise their hand, they can give a thumbs up, and they are welcome to speak as well. So the other thing I would like to add to the pillar, as somebody mentioned that pillars equals reasoning, but pillar is also something, a foundation, something that gives strength to one's conclusions and one's way of living. So that worldview that you have in religion, it needs to hold on. It has to have a solid ground. You have to be convinced. You have to be, sure about what your belief system is. And there is a relationship between the pillar of this religion, which is the prescribed prayers. Whenever I think about, the pillars of religion, there is that aspect of, there's that aspect of that they have to tie into how the author is presenting what our purpose in existence is. So there is that human element where you have to go with the realization, and then that has to tie into that pillar of the prescribed prayers. So, like for example, there's that uh, pillars of belief that are also mentioned, which is like you believe that there is a creator, believe in God, you believe that everything is meaningful, that there is the concept of angels. You understand that, based on how your observation and your living, you understand, yeah, this, I cannot explain any of this world with, that they just happen to be like this, but there must be a source. So that is how you understand that must be a creator to all these things. And then the meanings that you get from those things, the qualities, when you read, how come you know you are able to comprehend them, what is going on in terms of that you can make sense of. When you go outside, if you look at the trees and you can look at the flowers, you can make sense that, hey, this is this color, this is this shape, all these things that are in existence, they are telling you, giving you information, and they're making you wonder how they are and how they are made. So that's the part of the, getting the meaningful aspect of the angels. And then, of course, there are teachers, there are books that are teaching us what the meaning of this existence is. So all that has to tie into the pillar of your worldview. So they have to, it has to hold strong to that. So for example, I would say, like, the pillar may be, just a structure, but you have to, of maybe some bricks, but you have to put some thing inside that structure. And that, just like in a glass, the structure may be the outer glass, but you have to put the water inside it to fill it up. So just similarly, that pillar holds strong only with the belief aspect in it. So that's at least how I would say the pillar would be. And the prescribed prayers has to be not just a physical activity, although that's one part of it, the way it's, how it's meant to be, but there has to be the meat inside it. There has to be that, you know like, just like in the glass of water, the water inside, there has to be some concrete, solid ground basis in that prayers to make it a pillar of religion. Okay, so I see there is a question and comment in the chat. Could you elaborate on what you understand from prescribed? Wonderful question. What does one mean when it says the prescribed prayers? So prescribed, I would give my short understanding. It's a recommendation. Hey, this is something beneficial, just like a doctor gives you a prescription, because the ultimate aim of the prescription is to actually make you, get you out of that sickness that you may be encountering, but you start getting, it will be a means for you to get better from that sickness. So it's a recommendation, but so it is an option given to a human being. It's prescribed means it is something beneficial for you. If you do it, it will benefit you. And if you don't do it, well, it's up to you, your choice, but there is, you won't get the benefit of it. So if anybody would like to share in their thoughts, please, that would be really helpful. We're a good team here. A lot of good friends, I see. Let me check the chat again. Yeah, and the participants. Okay. Yeah, so that's how I took the prescribed prayers are the pillar of religion. Now, if there is any comment or anything before I start reading, please raise your hand now. Because now we're going to start reading the text. All right, wonderful. So, Bismillah. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. The prescribed prayers are the pillar of religion. If you want to understand with the certainty that 2 plus 2 equals 4, just how valuable and important are the prescribed prayers, and with what little expense they are gained, and how crazy and harmful is the person who neglects them, pay attention to the following story, which is in the form of a comparison. One time, a mighty ruler gave each of 2 of his servants 24 gold pieces and sent them to settle on one of his rich royal farms, 2 months' distance away. Use this money for your tickets, he commanded them, and buy whatever is necessary for your house there with it. There is a station 1 day's distance from the farm, and there is both road transport and a railway and boats and airplanes. They can be benefited from according to your capital. The 2 servants set off after receiving these instructions. One of them was fortunate, so that he spent a small amount of money on the way to the station. And included in that expense was some business so profitable and pleasing to his master that his capital increased 1,000-fold. As for the other servant, since he was luckless and a layabout, he spent 23 pieces of gold on the way to the station, wasting it on gambling and amusements. A single gold piece remained. His friend said to him, "Spend this last gold piece on a ticket so that you will not have to walk the long journey and starve." Spend this last gold piece on a ticket so that you will not have to walk the long journey and starve. Moreover, our master is generous. Perhaps he will take pity on you and forgive you your faults and put you on an airplane as well. Then we shall reach where we are going to live in 1 day. Otherwise, you will be compelled to walk alone and hungry across a desert which takes 2 months to cross. The most unintelligent person can understand how foolish, harmful, and senseless he would be if, out of obstinacy, he did not spend that single remaining gold piece on a ticket, which is like the key to a treasury, and spent it on vice for passing pleasure. Is that not so? So that is at least the parable that the author is sharing before he goes into the meaning of what he means by the different elements that he discusses in the parable. So here he's talking about, just imagine that there is a mighty ruler, and he has given you certain gold pieces, and gold pieces is an interesting concept here, that how shows the value of what that something that is there, and they are to be spent wisely. They are to be spent on your journey. I think if maybe we can continue and then it will make much more sense. I feel that way. So I'll continue on reading and then we will all come back to decipher the paragraphs. So, O you who do not perform the prescribed prayers, and O my own soul, which does not like to pray. The ruler in the comparison is our sustainer, our creator. So the ruler in the comparison is our sustainer, our creator. Of the two traveling servants, one represents the devout who perform their prayers with fervor, and the other, I'm sorry, there's somebody's mic open. Aishanur, would you like to say something? Okay, that's probably a mistake. Yeah. The ruler in the comparison are sustainer or creator. Of the two traveling servants, one represents the devout who perform their prayers with fervor, and the other, the heedless who neglect their prayers. The 24 pieces of gold are life in every 24-hour day, and the royal domain is paradise. As for the station, it is the grave. As for the station, it is the grave, and the journey is man's passage to the grave, and on to the resurrection and the hereafter. Men cover that long journey to different degrees according to their actions and the strength of their esteem of God. Some of the truly devout have crossed 1,000-year distance in a day like lightning, and some have traversed a 50,000-year distance in a day with the speed of imagination. The Quran of mighty stature alludes to this truth with two of its verses, basically in Quran chapter 18, verse 19 and 18, verse 25. There is that idea of notion of how, what it means that the devout have crossed 1,000-year distance in a day like lightning, and some have traversed another number of distance in a day. So we'll come to that once we start getting into our discussion. All right, so the ticket in the comparison represents the prescribed prayers. A single hour a day is sufficient for the 5 prayers. 1 second, please. Okay, so the ticket in the comparison represents the prescribed prayers. A single hour a day is sufficient for the 5 prayers together with taking the ablutions. A single hour a day is sufficient for the 5 prayers together with taking the ablutions. So what a loss a person makes who spends 23 hours on this fleeting worldly life and fails to spend 1 hour on the long life of the hereafter. What a loss a person who spends 23 hours on this fleeting worldly life and fails to spend 1 hour on the long life of the hereafter. How he wrongs his own self, how unreasonably he behaves. For would not anyone who considers himself to be reasonable understand how contrary to reason and wisdom such a person's conduct is? And how far from the reason he has become? If, thinking it reasonable, he gives half of his property to a lottery in which 1,000 people are participating, and the possibility of winning is 1 in 1,000, and does not give 1/24 of it to an eternal treasury. So 1/24 of his property to an eternal treasury where the possibility of winning has been verified at 99 out of 100. Moreover, the spirit, the heart, and the mind find great ease in prayer, and it is not tiring for the body. Furthermore, with the right intention, all the other acts of someone who performs the prescribed prayers become like worship. He can make over the whole capital of his life to the hereafter in this way. He can make over the whole capital of his life to the hereafter in this way. He can make his transient life permanent in one respect. So that is what the fourth word is. And if you've been following along, I think this is one of the similar kind of parables that the author likes to give. So in the part of the worship, we saw that there were two men, and in their life journey, they come across decisions that they have to take. And there was a right way of doing things, and there was the wrong way of doing things. So here also, there are two attitudes that a person can have. So either, as the author puts it, either used those gold pieces, which he says are actually the time that you have in a day. Like 24 hours represents the 24 gold pieces. Each hour, each moment of your life is extremely precious if we only realize that. How precious that moments that we are experiencing in our existence. So, of course, this is a loaded kind of word. Of course, the author is known for his, you know, pushing the reader to realize what his purpose in his existence is. What does a man have to do with his life journey in this world? The capital of his life, his tools, his faculties, what are they given for? What purposes? Yeah, what purpose are they for? And going along with that uh, idea of the purpose in one's existence, and that realization that you go through in your journey. So yeah, we're going through the first paragraph, just to make the case, so that I would ask maybe a question to the audience, since everybody is very silently listening, I hope. Yeah, so in this journey, the human journey that we understand, and the author points also made a mention about that, does it make sense for the human being to just give everything that he has in this world to the transient world, to transience? So all his valuable moments of his life for something that has no, that will just leave him, because it's a fleeting, we understand that, we observe it, that there is a fleeting universe. Or does he have to make sense of his being here and find that security that we spoke about in that previous, the worship aspect last week, that security in existence? So is it worth to get something for temporary basis and leave something that you will have for eternity? Is like a temporary pleasure something that is more meaningful to someone, or the eternal pleasure is what the human being should look for? So now if we go back to the first paragraph, and he mentions about the word certainty, understand with certainty. And he gives like just how you are certain that 2 + 2 = 4. a simple, so it's not equal to 3, it's not equal to 5, but this, you are so certain that 2 plus 2 equals 4. So with that certainty, yeah, I'm looking at how do I understand that this prescribed prayers are such a valuable and important aspect to my living here. And with what little expense they are gained. So I don't have to really spend years in order to do my prescribed prayers. I don't have to climb the Mount Everest and, to perform my prayers. But no matter which condition you're in, wherever you are, it is your connection that you establish, because you are one, I experience all these things that are here in the universe, and I understand that, okay, yeah, they are meaningful, they are, somebody has willed them, is presenting them to me. Now I have to respond. I feel that sense. And just like, if you are on a warm sunny day and you're really, it's really hot on that day, and somebody gives you, your friend comes, hey, here, glass of water, really refreshing, you want to respond back, oh, thank you, this is amazing. If you're really that thirsty and you're feeling that intense heat and that refreshing aspect of the water that you get, that satisfaction, it prompts you to respond. So in the same way, in your existence, in your 24 hours, everything that you are given, with your, your life that you're made to experience, there is this prescribed prayers provides an opportunity to respond and thank, for that, the experiences that you've witnessed, that you've encountered. So here I would ask, there was a question somebody was asking me. So what does it mean that with, the prescribed prayers are gained? What is it that we're gaining from the prescribed prayers? But this is also an introduction, this first paragraph, to the author's topic. And he does discuss this, that, there is a purpose for your being here. And this prescribed prayers, he says, is your ticket. Is a ticket to the key to a treasury. Now, let me ask my first question, based on, since everybody has an idea now what this topic is about. So what is the harm if there is one does without the prescribed prayers? Is there any harm? And if so, what is the harm? Would anybody like to share their thoughts, their ideas? So again, the question is, okay, now there's this concept of worship, but now if there's this prescribed prayers that are the pillars of religion, now what is the harm without the prescribed prayers? Let me check. There is, okay, H. Beza, please go ahead.
Assalamualaikum. Based on the analogy that the author is presenting us with, the one who does not pray, in other words, is the one who squanders all of his gold in places where he could have definitely used them in a way that was profitable for him. So he it's a matter of being given something valuable, and then for a specific purpose, and then kind of going against that, and I dare say in a conscious manner, um, and wasting your assets. And at the end, it's you're still able to do the bare minimum with a small portion of what you've been given. But if you do not take heed to your own situation, then you find yourself in an unfortunate position. So your question was, what is the harm of the one who doesn't carry out the prescribed prayers, right? So based on the analogy, it's one who is just wasting away their valuable assets, which they cannot get back. And we can, I guess, further talk about how that translates to real life. Thank you.
Thank you, Hpeza. And I saw there's a comment and a hand from the host, Hamim. Brother Ali, would you like to share your thoughts? Go ahead.
This is a very simple but very important analogy here. There are some metaphors used here attracted my attention. For example, he said everybody is given 24 golds. What does it mean in the parable? We are asked to spend one gold, one of the 24 golds, for a specific action that we are recommended to perform in this world. So what does it mean? The rest of the 23 gold, pieces of gold, are also valuable. This is specifically used for a specific action or purpose, but the rest of the 23 golds are also golds. They are not wastes. What does it mean? Of course, the fundamental argument nowadays, lately means late 2 centuries, are growing, deeply growing in the minds of the people, starting from the origin of Jesus, the prophet Jesus. The Torah tradition, because of the Torah tradition, emphasized on the actions. It means physical, practical side of religion, as you describe it as the worldview, turned into practical actions historically. And then Jesus was sent to refresh the minds of the people. Yes, practical side is important, but never forget that the rest of the 24 golds, which are 23 golds, are to be utilized as well as a capital, so that we wouldn't lose lose of our purpose being in this world. Of course, because of the emphasis taught by the prophet Jesus, drawing the attentions of the audience, the people, to the importance of the 23 golds, it means 23 hours a day in one's life, then that became an extreme view that people started neglecting the one gold it means 1 hour in one's daily life, or one portion of one's property to be given to charity, or one action which is performed as the practice of Hajj and going on the pilgrimage, and 1 month in 12 months of a year, etc. This is an exemplary study, prayer, but we have to extend it to fasting, giving to charity, and going on the pilgrimage. We have to take the physical actions. So it became a tradition among these followers of Jesus Christ, the prophet Jesus, that they neglected these physical actions in general. I'm not saying totally, in general, they neglected it. So this attitude is becoming very widely spread among Muslim community as well after certain age, when the Reformation movement among the Christian people, which is called Protestants, then they neglected the 23, the one gold, and claimed that 23 golds are also important. But what happened at the end? 23 golds became not functioning as a capital in one's life. I'm not criticizing certain religious tradition, but it is becoming a widespread attitude among the Muslims as well. Lately means the last 2 centuries, let's say, 19th and 20th century into 21st century. People started saying that physical actions are not important because of the reality that one's realization of the meaning of life, one's realization of the meaning in the existence of the universe is essential, which I totally and definitely agree with. That is correct. So what they did, well, as long as your mind has the comprehension of the Creator, and then your spirit is submissive to the Creator, then your feelings always, hopefully, alive. The feelings are alive. As far as the acknowledgement of the Creator is concerned, bodily actions are not important. At first, it appeared to be true, and it was very appealing to certain people, which makes the majority of the Muslim community, saying that keep your heart and mind clean. That is everything. That is the influence of the certain tradition developed among the Christendom, and the Muslims also, especially those people who use their intellect, started assuming this attitude. That's what my observation is. As a result, what happened? 23 gold were not used for the purpose they are given to. Generally speaking, I'm not saying totally and for a particular people or particular person. This is the general stand as I understand among the Muslim community. And I'm going to concentrate on the Muslim community since we are talking about prescribed or recommended, which I like the word, recommended prayers, action-wise as well. It doesn't mean that when we perform our actions, it means, as the author summarizes it in the last paragraph that you read today, the moderator read today, the human existence consists of, in this world, spirit, heart, mind, and body. Now, this is the world, the creation that we are living now, includes these four elements in one's life. So we have to keep four of them working in harmony and supporting each other. If we ignore one of them, for example, if I don't use my mind in order to question where I am, what am I doing in this world, why am I here, where am I going to, etc., this kind of very fundamental existential questions, then if I don't use my mind, I mean, my heart cannot feel anything because it doesn't function by itself. Heart functions only with the, if you write harvest, or the result of the mind, what mind comprehends, and then heart assumes it, gets it, and analyze it in terms of our sensual world, feelings. And our spirit as a human being starts making sense of its being in this world when the heart is satisfied. And then I say, yeah, I am here, but as we have studied before, that I feel secure in my existence, I am comfortable with my existence, so I have no problem for my future or for the meaning of my life on earth. They have to work together, but it is rather difficult to integrate the body into these three elements: spirit, mind, heart. I mean, as far as the functioning of these three elements, we have to put mind first. Mind works, questions what is going on in the world, and then feelings, tests them. Feelings. I said that this world is created. Is it really so that I feel comfortable about my being? If the mind and spirit, mind and heart start working in harmony with each other and supporting each other, then spirit feels released, freed from any worry. Now we can understand the connection between the mind and heart and the spirit. But it is rather difficult for me to integrate body into these three elements, because body is a physical entity, whereas the rest of the mind, heart, and spirit are not that of material. They are something like, we call them spiritual beings. It means they don't exist in the physical material sense. But body, we have to be careful that we need to integrate the body into our other three immaterial aspects of our life, our existence. Why? Because we have to understand that even the information we collect from the universe, the signs reflected in the universe, we can communicate with the signs only through material interaction, which is called seeing them physically, hearing them physically, and reasoning about them in terms of physical relationship, which means in general, within the order of the universe, how it works physically. And the spirit concludes, look, our existence in this world has been bound, tied up strongly to the physical aspect of this world. So what I have to do now, I have to communicate with the meanings of this universe in terms of physical interactions as well. That is essential. For example, how do I know that I am being nourished, taken care of, sustained? Physical being. Look, my body keeps its combinations of the particles, and I am directly related to the gravity of the earth, atmosphere of the earth, and the light from the sun. I am interacting with them at the same time, and also all the needs of my body are provided in this world, not only for my stomach, for my thought process, for my feeling processes. I have to be in contact with the physical objects. A simple example, when I am hungry, I have to eat food. I cannot say that my creator takes care of me, don't worry about the physical interaction. I cannot say that my creator takes care of me, I believe he is almighty, all powerful, he can sustain my life even I don't breathe air into my physical body. And we want to see physically. We want to hear physically. We want to meet with each other physically, communicate with each other, have conversation with each other physically. So we are so much entangled with the physical elements of this creation that if we ignore physical practices of our conclusions, then we ignore our conclusions consequently. For example, if I had many friends when I was young. I had lost my contact with some of them, majority of them, because I changed the side of the world. I am on the other side of the world now, so physical other side of the world. So I haven't been communicating with them physically. I lost all my spiritual, sensual interaction with them. I forgot most of them. I forgot the beautiful memories we had in the past because I'm not in contact with them physically. Can you say that, oh, my mom, I love you? Yeah, your love is in my heart, but I don't go and visit, speak to her, or help her, communicate with her physically. Mom will say, yeah, your love in your heart is for you, but I don't see any sign of it, and you don't demonstrate any sign of it. What does your mom expect of you? To have physical interaction. That's what we neglected. Unfortunately, it was very essential for our being in this world and making our existence so meaningful. We neglected the physical relationship with the world and presenting our conclusions of the minds and feelings and therefore spirit put into practice. Then when we lost our physical performance of certain type of activities, then we lost our, in summary, in a nutshell, spiritual connection with our Creator. We lost it. Although we may claim, oh, my heart is clean, and God is in my heart, but while we are doing all the actions in this world, how many times or how often I remembered God if I don't physically practice it? This remembrance of God must be physically practiced. My tongue will say, my mind will comprehend, my feeling will taste the pleasure, and also my body, or the bodily side of me, my eyes, my arms, my limbs, must physically put it into practice so that I will keep the integration of human elements on earth. Integration of the human elements on earth. I will keep this integration. If I lose one of them, the rest also dissembles. That is how I see, particularly in my life, and also in general, among the believers, in the followers of all religions, if they don't practice, they lost their interest in their position in the world. Therefore, they lost their connection with their Creator. That process must be understood, that I, for example, if I don't practice, for example, saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, Inshallah, if I don't do it practically, in physical terms, if I don't pray practically, if I don't fast practically, if I don't practice zakat in Arabic Quranic word, giving to charity, taking care of the needy practically, not from my heart. I love the poor, I love the orphan creatures, but I never take care of them practically, physically. My mind starts wandering around purposelessly, not without any purpose. And I start losing my connection with my Creator, because this is the physical world, and physical connection, if you like, the rope of the physical connection has been neglected or cut off. Then we just, when we are asked about our identity, we say, oh yeah, I am a Muslim as well. I believe in God as well. It is in my heart, but while I am dealing with the physical side of the world, the meaning side of the world, it doesn't come to my mind. As my friends don't come, the memories of my friends don't come to my memory, to my feelings, most of them, not all of them, of course. So this is the result of my disconnection of my friends in physical terms. I think we have to see this description, although the author is starting presenting the fundamentals of the Quranic teaching, which is Islam, in a very simplest way, simple way, in an allegory-like, simile-like things. He's presenting to us stories, but in fact, he is preparing our mind. This is the fourth section of the book, and it has larger and deeper meanings studied, analyzed in the further sections of the book, but this is just a warming up, very simple story, and trying to prepare us to get our integrity of our existence, so that we will be ready to understand the following deeper, finer points of the teachings of the Quran. So we shouldn't take it on the surface value of the story. There were two people. No, the two people are me. One side of me says that material side of it, putting your head on the floor is not important, and bowing your belly is not important, because your comprehension of God in your heart is important. What are you doing this, turning towards a certain position which is called Kaaba? What is that physical being there? Why should I go and visit it? And which kind of memories I should remember there? I know from history what happened to Prophet Abraham. That is enough for me. What am I going to do with the black stones there? Oh, it looks like very rational thinking, but it never covers up our reality in this physical world. We have to prepare our minds that, look, I have to be ready to be in contact with my creator. I'm summing up. I know it was a long introduction, but I was really excited about the simplicity of the story. So I have to be thinking about the meaning of the creation. I have to bring these results of my thoughts into my feelings and checking them how appropriate to my existence, to my reality. Am I happy with the conclusions? And then letting the spirit feel secure in this world, although the spirit is separated from its source of existence. It is important. We are here separated from our source of existence. It doesn't mean that separation is disconnection. It means we are separated temporarily, but we have still connection with him, because the spirit always yearns for its source origin. So it is connected, but physically separated now. So as the mind and heart understand that our existence in this world is meaningful, purposeful, and for a preparation for a long journey, it means going back to our creator, then my spirit feels, yes, it must be so. Otherwise, I will be, the spirit says, suffocated. So in order to keep the consistency in our existence, we have to take the bodily practice of our logical conclusions into the practical side of our life, physical side of our life. So the combination of these four main elements in one's life will become consistent in their existence. Thank you. I'm sorry. It was a long, but I'm sorry, especially I apologize from the moderator that I took out of his time. But I am going to stop now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Lee. No apologies needed. That was much needed. Thank you. So the highlight that you made about, our human being, the spirit, the heart, the mind, and the body should all work in a harmony together. I feel that is an important aspect, and neglecting any one of them, is a missing element of the human being. So it's basically contradictory to what the nature or how the human being is made. So if I take myself as a spiritual being only and just have claim that my heart is satisfied, but not really act accordingly physically with my body, and my do not reason and mind work together all together, then there's a missing element there. Similarly, if I just focus on the body aspect and leave the mind and the spirit, then of course that is more of an animalistic way of living. So there's that balance that has to be there in the how the human being functions. And also your other highlight was about the gold pieces in the 24 hours, that each moment, each hour, also you mentioned that how that they are also gold pieces. So they are not just, there's not just the physical aspect that is enough, but there is, the meaningful side of everything, which is how every moment is the way to realize and connect with your Lord. And I saw there was a hand up, but I'm not sure if somebody wants to do it again. I know, Asifa, you had your hand up. Would you like to continue, say something? If you're free to raise your hand again. And if anybody else would like to add anything, comment on something, please go ahead. Let me check if anybody is there who wants to say anything. So there is some, let me check the chat also. So there was somebody, okay, possibility of missing the last train from the station. I think Qasim probably wrote that at some earlier point about when I was asking the question, the harm in the without the prescribed prayers. And a good comment, good analysis of the importance of physical and spiritual components of belief. Great. Yeah, would anybody like to speak or have any comments to what was shared so far? Okay, so let's see. Maybe let's go on to the parable in the second paragraph. So it says, like, one time, I mean, it's a very simple story. A mighty ruler gave each of two of his servants 24 gold pieces and sent them to settle on one of his rich royal farms 2 months distance away. So use this money for your tickets, he commanded them, and buy whatever is necessary for your house there with it. There is a station 1 day's distance from the farm. So what does he mean by when he says whatever is necessary for your house there with it? So I would ask, I think that's related to the comment that Qasim made, possibility of missing the last train from the station. So I don't know if Qasim, you would like to speak on that, or anybody else would like to say anything on what is necessary for the house there. Go ahead. Okay, Tolu, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Hey, Salams. This isn't in response to your question, but it was a question that I had with regards to prayer. So I understand about the pieces of gold and then the one piece of gold for prayer. The question I had was, at least speaking for myself, prayer can become quite monotonous, and I can find myself like spacing out a lot of the time, and it feels like it can feel like there isn't much that I'm getting out of it, because it's kind of like this thing that I do almost from like it can be almost from like a robotic point of view, just because I'm so used to doing it. It's like I start and then before I know I'm done. And so it can sometimes feel like, what's the purpose of this thing that I'm doing? Just because it's I don't. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm getting much out of it, and so I'm just kind of curious, how valuable is that one gold ticket if it just becomes this like robotic thing that is done almost without a lot of consciousness.
Thank you, Tolu, for the question. Would anybody want to answer that? So Tolu's question is, how does one get away from that sense of being whatever they're doing, and what that one gold piece for the ticket being a robotic kind of sense. And just to start off, I think that, yeah, that's the points that Brother Ali kind of shared, touched upon the aspect of it's not just that physical thing that you are engaged in or one is engaged in, but it is the, every aspect of your human side, which is your consciousness, your soul, your heart has to have that ease, and your mind has to be convinced, based on the evidence that you are seeing and witnessing, and then your body acts along with it. So it's not just forcing yourself like as your physical being only without any, it's just a bunch of movements and just like an exercise. If there's no meaning to it, you might as well just go to the gym and do that, right? So that's an aspect. But there is that notion of that all these elements that Brotherly kind of described as forming one human being with the spirit, the heart, and the mind, and working alongside with the physical body, because we live in the physical world here. Everything is meaningful, yes, but we act according to how this physical universe acts. So it all has to be in line with how our understanding of what our existence is, and how this we understand the existence of this universe, and work along the tools and the faculties in this physical world that we are in. So I'm not sure, I hope that helps your question, but if there's any follow-up, anybody would like to add to this, please raise your hand. That would be great to hear your voice.
All right, I don't know how to raise my hand or do a thumbs up, but I had a similar concern / question. Not sure if, again, others, feel the same, but at least for myself, one thing that I guess I'm realizing is that I do think that I tend to gravitate, like if I'm looking at a car as an example, when a car is like set to neutral, depending on how like the slope of the road is, it will almost gravitate towards the playing field. So I also think that like in order to utilize that gold coin properly for its true purpose, that there is essentially some effort required versus to waste it. At least in practical terms, it feels that almost no effort is required, and by not making any effort to utilize something, you are in a way wasting it. um, I've always been curious to like why that's the case, right? If I'm trying to be more conscious of something, if I'm being more conscious of my existence now, I have to do this one thing, which is called reflection. Versus if I want to waste it, I don't have to do anything. And simply through not reflecting, not making any effort, I'm almost wasting that gold coin. I would like to just hear your thoughts, anyone else's thoughts on this.
Thank you, Qasim, for your comment and question. Would anybody want to share what they think? I mean, I understand how the point Qasim brought up about that, how one's being gravitates, as he says, between how that it is so easy for not to think about something or not to, do an action, versus, you have to make an effort to reason, and you have to make an effort to think about something. So that is correct. And then what would you think, like a student who goes to school and just doesn't do anything, instead of what he's required to do? what is the end result of that student, right? So I would say that, you know, and there's a result to whatever our consequence to whatever we, you know, decide to do. So whatever our choices are, they have a consequence to it. But let's hear from Tolu. Tolu, go ahead.
Hi. In response to Kasim's question, I think I understood his question. And I think you know, it makes sense. The one thing that comes to mind for me is that in life, even if we're just like in neutral, living our lives, like things happen in our lives that even if we're neutral, kind of make us need to like reconsider what we're doing here. For instance, we might get ill, things might not be going the way we wanted to in life, or our parents might die, or someone might die suddenly. And you know, even living, so like those kind of things that happen out of the blue that we're not expecting, that aren't things that we like, even as one is living a neutral life, that neutral life can lead you to like kind of like think of, well, what does this incident tell me? Or and I feel like you almost maybe in when those big things happen, like a loved one passing away, you almost have to like maybe work against the awakening that that brings, to not kind of consider. And so in summary, as one is living a neutral life, things will happen that will that should trigger some kind of thought process, even if one is just living from a day to day. That's what I've noticed in my life, at least.
Thank you, Tolu. Brother Ali, please go ahead.
I know I spoke a lot, but I couldn't stop myself. Taking your school analogy, if someone, let's forget about the technological facilities of today. If you don't go to school, to the school, physical building, and sit in the class and listen to the professor teaching you something, you never get the opportunity to learn from him. But it is a possibility that when, as Talu said, asked the question, it is a possibility that you may go to the class and sit there, but at the same time, not pay attention to what the professor teaches. So it is a possibility. If you don't listen to the professor once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, what do you feel now? I am going to the class in a monotonous way. I gain nothing. What is missing there? Not listening to the professor and learning. So, as described in the book, and as I also revised it, if the heart, the feelings, and if the mind and the heart and spirit do not accompany in the prayer, physical action becomes monotonous, robotic. That's correct, I agree. But then you see no point in doing robotic actions, because human beings do not like wasting their time for nothing if they don't get any benefit from that time, out of this time. So if you don't listen to the professor, you think that going to the classroom, going to the building of the school becomes redundant, unnecessary. Why should I go? Because you are not learning anything. So what is the problem? Unfortunately, we in general, I'm speaking about a general culture of the believers altogether, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, etc. all these people did not propagate, did not teach four of the elements working in harmony. For example, what we do in Muslim communities, we either concentrate on the physical actions, the principles of the physical actions, the performance types of the physical actions. We keep talking about how to pray, what is necessary, what is not necessary, arbitrary, etc., farz, wajib, whatever they call it, sunnah or nafle, whatever they call it. We started concentrating on the forms of the prayers, fasting, Hajj, for example. People go to Hajj and they take a book in their hands, what to do on what day, after what occasion. But they don't prepare themselves what the meaning of Hajj, what the meaning of giving certain amount of your property out to the needy ones. What the meaning of the creation out there. We never talked about them. Have you ever seen any, for example, prayer leader, which is called imam in Islam tradition, or priest, or rabbi in Christian and Jewish tradition, coming up in front of the people, in front of the population, or whatever you call them, congregation in their prayer places, mosques, synagogues, or churches, and taking a bunch of flower and saying, "Look, how beautiful they look, aren't they? Don't they? Why do you think? What does it mean for us?" Almost none I've seen in my 70 plus years. But talking about the rules, how to slaughter the sheep or cow, what are the rules, and how about the meaning of it? How often do we mention the meaning of it? We just refer it to the memory, the historical memory of a prophet, which is called Abraham, who is called Abraham. Abraham's memory, what does it mean? How do I apply it to my practical life? I am not learning. My mind is not satisfied. My heart is not satisfied, and the physical action becomes redundant. Of course, as earlier I said, four of them must function in harmony. If one of them is neglected, the three of them becomes disintegrated and meaningless. If someone lose his admirement and wonder on the beautiful creation of anything out there, or on a catastrophic creation, we call it catastrophe, that out there, what is going on there, if you don't really think of it from the purpose of the creation side, what is the purpose of the creator of this event can be, if you don't get this admiration. For example, nowadays, viruses is the main topic of the people. How can we find the vaccine for the virus? That's correct. Of course, that's the physical thing we have to do. But at the same time, what about the meaning of the existence of this creation of this virus? How do I feel about it? I am afraid of it. How can I make sense of the feeling of fear of an so small element, creature in the world that I cannot see even, and I'm afraid of it? Oh, I have my military power to challenge the world, but I am put in a frightful position in front of a creature which I cannot even see, so small and weak. cannot do anything to me physically, but I understand that if it catches me, he can kill me. Now, if we don't wonder about the meaning of this side of creation, rather than saying that keep distance, okay, not wrong, physical thing, I have to do it, and also stop visiting in a group of people, don't get together in a group of people in a very small area, etc. Keep the distance, all right, and keep your mask on, all right. How about the meaning of the existence of this creature? What do I think about it? Of course, what becomes now if I lose one side, and then when I am praying, practically, if I don't have the meaning, what I am doing there, if I don't learn it, if I only learn how to memorize a piece of the Quran so that I will recite in my prayer, then prayer becomes a monotonous robotic action and meaningless. Of course, eventually you leave it. It is inevitable. It is a human reality. That is the only way that we can understand the robotic feeling. When I go back to the previous example or the metaphor of the school, when I go to school, I have to pay attention to the professor and take notes while he's speaking and teaching, and then go home and study over them and review them and get ready for the tests, etc. Then my robotic action of going to the classroom starts making sense. Or vice versa. If I don't go to school, I don't need the professor. Forget about the technological gadgets now. That is the analogy. And if I don't learn it, if I don't listen to him, of course, I cannot learn, I cannot think. There must be practiced in integrity that makes life meaningful and worth living. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. Beautiful conclusion, inshallah. I think the time is up for today. If there's any final comment by anyone, please, you can raise your hand or you can put it on the chat. But I think the highlight for today for me was about, how all these four elements with my heart, spirit, mind, and body, how they all need to work together. And that is what makes the prescribed prayers a purposeful means. And that is how it becomes a solid principle for my worldview, basically. So yeah, and the gold pieces, so each moment, each gold coin, each hour, each moment of our lives is valuable and has to be made, with the spirit, heart, and mind and body. Everything has to be working together for each moment. So we'll stop here, inshallah, and I think the next moderator could perhaps talk about what the ticket and how the comparisons are being made, and maybe go over, the human journey further into how the author is presenting it, inshallah. All right, thank you everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha.